We are in the first panel of our Mama Love segment here on Valentine's Day. We said we're going to talk about love a slightly different way today.
Right.
But Mama Love, Black maternal health and reproductive justice. And Shawnee, you were just sharing with us the harrowing scenario and what happened with your daughter and what she experienced. And, you know, one thing you said early on was that it was still sacred.
Yes.
When she had that decision earlier in the first, when she had to make the decision about going into the C-section, it was a collective decision. And it was still sacred.
Yes.
Talk with us a little bit, and this is for any of you, about your experiences with helping birthing people to realize that even if it doesn't go the way that you want it, the vision that you had, that you wrote down, that, you know, you write the vision, make it plain. You know, the Bible says it all the time. When it doesn't go the way you want it, there's so much guilt and there's so much trauma. And I'm wondering if we can talk a little bit about how we navigate that element as well, because I don't want the failure of that system that you referenced to be internalized as though we go home thinking, I messed up. This was something wrong with me.
Right.
Yeah?
Right. I'll go first if that's okay.
Sure.
So I know that whenever I'm working with my clients in our prenatal visits, I always say, what are our preferences, right? We don't go in there with a plan because we never know. Babies come into the world how they want to come into the world. We have no control over that. However, there has been instances where, you know, the plan or the preference didn't go as anticipated. And it's hard, you know, for the birthing person. And I always ask for time, right? For whatever it is. It's like, do we have time? How long do they have before they need to make a decision? I always check in. Do you understand what's being said, right? Do you have any questions, right? And then ultimately I ask when you're ready, you know, as long as it's not emergent, because a lot of times it's not emergent. When you're ready, then we can go ahead, right? And for me personally, you know, as a mom myself and, you know, as a human, I take in the emotion that they're feeling, right? Because you can feel the disappointment and you just remind them, we're doing this and we want to make sure that you're healthy and we want to make sure that the baby is healthy. And at the end of the day, we want, you know, just pure happiness for everyone, right? So I really feel like that's the advocacy part that comes into it, just making sure that they understand what's happening, you know, step by step, you know, repeat back to me, what's going on? What do you think they just said to you, right? Are you okay with that? So just checking in, and whomever else is in the room, if they have a partner, you know, just making sure that they understand as well. And that's how we try to, you know, to navigate when things don't go right. And then there's afterwards too, right? It's like, okay, you may feel great in that moment and then you go home and it's like, maybe if I would have done.
Right.
Right. Or
I knew they was.
Exactly.
Right.
If I would have, you know, maybe sat on the birth bowl a little bit longer,
Yeah.
you know, maybe I could have. And it's like, no, you know, this is not, you know, on you. Right. It really isn't on you. You know, it really is just how things happen at times, you know, like we don't have control. We have control over but so much.
Yeah.
And that's what we hold on to.
Dr. Livingston, you know, as you hear Shawnee's story about her daughter, you've seen that, I'm sure, play out from the medicinal side. And then as you hear Karma talk about time, we also know that time is a factor that the medical profession has to calculate and factor in as well, simply because of the way our healthcare system in this society is structured. When you hear a story like that, how does that strike you as someone who can see this issue from the multiple angles and the multiple sides of this sphere? How do you respond to a story like that?
I got into OBGYN because I was born and raised by a single mom, and I was around very strong Black women. They told me what to do, from what outfit to wear, how to wear my hair. It's just how Black women roll, and I just love women. I grew up just being so enamored with the Black women who were helping to raise me since I was brought up in a single parent household. I love the birth part, and obviously, as you've heard, I love the surgical part. I watched 2 Black women die in childbirth, and it changed everything. It made me say to myself as a physician that we have to do better. And I get to spend 15 minutes with my patients. Doula spends 6 to 11 more times.
Wow.
That's the secret sauce. Everybody
Yes.
wants to know what the secret sauce is with
Write
doulas.
that down, folks.
That is the secret sauce. Studies
Wow.
show that doulas spend 6 to 11 more times with their clients, as you all refer, y'all refer, and I love that. We get to spend 15 minutes. So when I realized that trust was so crucial to care, I stepped out of the prenatal office. I stepped out of the hospital and walked back into the community because we're all going to fall flat on our faces when we come up with policies, legislation, guidelines, ACOG with their excellent, readiness protocols to help us deal with hemorrhage and severe hypertension. All of that is necessary. But until we engage the community, until we say, how can we birth better? Please tell me, we're going to fall flat on our faces. So I stepped back out into the community and said, what is it that we can do? What we can do is get better at listening, get better at listening to Shamani, get better at when I have patients who call me multiple times. Listen to them on the first time. We doctors, don't let us trick you. We're not as smart as we just spent 20 years of our lives just dedicated to becoming physicians and got into a lot of debt doing so. We're not that smart. What we need to get smarter at is listening. The patients are telling us the diagnosis. And that's what I've learned in my sort of reinvention of my physician self is to lean on doulas. I'm known as the doula doctor because I know that I can't do this alone, nor should I be thinking that I'm so big and bad that I can do it alone. So I want the perinatal workforce to be wonderful. I want nurses who listen to patients, doctors, midwives, hospital administrators. I want us as a team so that when the patient calls, they are heard and listened to all along so that by the time they get to me, they're not, in such dire straits that now, we're working backwards. I think that's one aspect. Another aspect that I was intensely listening to is we have to, as a community, understand that the answers are not just biologic. The answers are well beyond the patient themselves. What's the whole of the experience? The American College of OBGYNs has established this 4th trimester care. First trimester being 0 to 14 weeks, 14 to 28 being second trimester, and then 28 to 42 being the 3rd trimester. The 4th trimester is where a lot of our solutions need to focus. When patients come in to see me for their 4th trimester visit, which is well beyond the 6 weeks, we pay so much attention. I heard a professor from Harvard talk about, the mom is the wrapper and the baby is the piece of candy inside. We have to get better on just undoing that concept because we will not see better infant health outcomes until we have better maternal health outcomes. And until we really understand that the two are not separate. But when I walk in the room for a 4th trimester visit, my actions are so intentional. The baby's beautiful, but I don't even look at the baby. And they're cute. Babies are just so cute. I have 4 of them. Trust me, I know. But I look at the mom very intentionally. Because I want to see her. And I ask her how she's doing. And then guess what? We moms do it. She's looking over at the baby because she wants me to ask questions about the baby. And I won't, not because I'm a mean human, but because I'm a human who understands that unless I engage this bigger human, this little human won't do well either.
And I would imagine by that point in the 4th trimester, a lot of women, a lot of pregnant people, birthing people at this point, you've already birthed, but a lot of us are so used to not being seen. We're used to everyone going straight to the baby. Move on, give me my grandbaby. Where's my niece? So we've adopted the idea that we're the wrapper and everyone cares about the candy.
Exactly.
We have some questions from the audience that I want to get. Shout out to the audience. Air Review, we love y'all. We really do. We love y'all. The first question by Aisha Williams is, how would you tease out, so one of you used the phrase unbaking the cake. How do we unbake the cake without collapsing the system? Should we even allow our focus or emphasis to be or remain on considering what the whole is doing? She says she can clarify if need be, but this idea that we in this cake. This cake is in the oven. It's baked. This cake is baked. We are good. How do we undo some of the systemic elements that have led us to this point?
Sure. And this ties into what the other sisters have said. We have to restore, and I mentioned this earlier, I can't say it enough, the sacred. This is a rite of passage, that all rites of passages are connected, interconnected, interrelated. When the doctor views themselves as something outside of this sacred space, we are already having problems. When the doula views themselves as external, when the parent, the mama is disconnected from what is growing in their belly, or the birthing person. I can't say this enough. I lead rites of passage programming, and it's intergenerational. It's all connected. The crone lives in me. That's the elder woman. The mother lives in me. That's that mid-range. And the maiden lives in me. And all of them must be attended to. And I've been a crone since I was a little kid, like an elder acting person. And some of that is due to trauma, and some of that is due to just who I am. That these callings that we have, my calling card has always been my voice and my words, that we all have them. And some people don't have no business in birthing work, in reproductive work, in hospital work, in healing work, as far as psychological work, the work that I've been trained to do, that some of us need to really be looking at the spaces and places that we're in as far as the reproductive field, and say, do I belong here? So the cake is baked, but there are things that need to be restored. And they're not innovations. They're Sankofa moments, fetching what already existed.
Yes. That ancient wisdom.
Belly binding, the herbs, I stayed in a big bed after I had Shamani. My grandmother was like, take my bed. And they brought my food to me, and they checked on me, how they spoke to me and held me after I had the baby. So there are things that we tossed because white supremacy said that they were old, played out, ignorant, and we're suffering because of it. Now they're trying to restore it as some new age stuff, and the shit has been done by us forever, and then they're causing us to pay extra dollars to get it.
Right. Yes.
So we got it twisted. So thank you for your question. Is it Aisha?
Aisha,
That's how we unbake the cake. Restore what we had before because it worked until they told us that it didn't.
Yeah. Now we have another question here that's asking about legalities, right? And this one I'm going to pose the question, and then anyone who can answer it, please do. Although as an attorney, I do have, I got a hunch on this one. The question is, and this is by Elizabeth Andrews, is it legal for my OB to refuse to provide prenatal care if my birthplace includes my preference for a home birth? We've seen this in a lot of spaces where I want to have a home birth. My mama had a home birth. My grandmama had a home birth. I'm in the birthing tradition of my family, but perhaps you're in a state that does not allow it.
Right.
Perhaps you're in a jurisdiction that does not allow for insurance coverage for that particular type of birth. Dr. Livingston, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this.
I'll take it. So I practice medicine in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. Lancaster County is the #1 county in Pennsylvania for home births. So when I graduated from residency, the first thing I needed to do was understand the importance of home birth. People don't need us telling them what to do or what's important to them. And so when I walked into that environment, that's why I became a doctor who loves doulas. I was submerged into urban Lancaster, suburban, rural. We have it all in Lancaster. I mean, the Amish and Mennonite, that's all they do. 90% of their births are at home. So I had to quickly acclimate to that custom. And it's a beautiful custom.
Yes.
My 96-year-old grandmother, who's in Harrisburg right now, delivered all 8 of her babies at home.
Wow.
So who am I to say that home birth is not right or home birth is unsafe? For a certain population of birthing people, home birth is fine. My role as a physician is to team up with the birthing person and help to risk stratify. And if they risk out of a home birth, then I'm right there with open arms to accept them. I collaborate with all of the home birth midwives in Lancaster County.
Wow.
We meet every 6 weeks. that too is important. When you build teamwork, they call me and they say, Dr. Livingston, I have a patient who's at home, has this going on, that going on. I don't want the environment to be punitive, because the person birthing at home deserves the same amount of safety
Yes.
that the person birthing in the hospital does. And the way to fill that gap is just to collaborate, not to make them feel bad for their
Right.
choice.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just to collaborate and be on the other end when they need me. And so that formula has worked for us. I just want to quickly go back. I know we're getting close to time. I made the comment about systemic and structural racism is baked into the cake. The one way, there are many ways to unbake the cake, but I have zero interest in helping or convincing white people to love me and love my birth.
Come on.
Thank you.
Zero
Thank
interest
you.
in that. I have so many other things that I'd rather do.
It's not on the agenda.
It's not
no
on the
room.
agenda. Let's have another conversation. But one of the things that we can do to help unbake the cake is make it difficult to do bad and easy to do right. Create systems where
Wow.
it's easy for healthcare providers to provide good care.
Got it.
Like, so that you have to basically be working hard to do bad upon me. Like, you have to be so intentional, and actually it should be difficult to do bad.
That's
Yeah.
so true.
Yeah.
And so when we create a system where it's easy to provide holistic, equal health care, that's the part.
Yeah.
It's not convincing people to love me or stop with their hate. I'm done with that.
Right.
I'm
Right.
so done with that. But create systems where it's easy to provide good care.
Yeah.
Got it.
Incentivize.
Yeah.
Remember,
Incentivize.
safety is the floor.
Right.
That's the floor. People,
Right.
I don't want women, hurraying and hurrahing when they, leave their birth unscathed from death.
Yeah, that's
Right.
crazy.
That's
Right.
crazy.
Yeah, I know.
made it known.
Shouldn't be I won the
floor-
lottery.
Safety is the floor. The ceiling should be a great birthing
Right.
experience.
Yes.
We have it all backwards. Like, it's just, we can do this. It's just, we need folks like us being consistent, keeping our foot on the gas, saying no, until the systems are created to help Black birthing people birth safer and better, I'm not letting up.
Right.
Got it.
I love the description between the way that you all are handling this in Lancaster. Had I known that, I might have, stayed in Pennsylvania a little bit longer. But because that's a dream
Yeah.
to be able to have that sort of not just tolerance for a midwife or a doula community, but in integration with and collaboration
Teamwork.
with. Can you give us any insight as to how you think that impacts the outcomes, the birthing outcomes in that community?
It improved. I was on the phone on my way here. I'm the department chair at our hospital. And so we talk about how we can really get the people who are birthing at home to understand when to come in.
Yeah.
So on May 6th, International Midwifery Day, we're inviting all the home birth midwives. And remember, there are certified nurse midwives, unlicensed midwives. I embrace them all.
I love it.
Just like there are certified doulas and doulas who, don't want anything with certifications, and as they should, it is their choice. We are opening the lines of communication, sharing guidelines that we have in a non, a non-enforced way, but just talking about Group B strep and when we should say, she's been pushing for too long, please bring her in. I think the answer is, the secret sauce lies in just building a team so that people don't feel like they're going to get screamed and yelled at by a doctor when they decide to bring the patient in.
I'm reminded once again, Book of Negroes, and the difference in the environment between ancestral commitment to the health of everyone in the community, including, of course, the birthing mother and the child, and then everything that we're facing now. We are going to head into commercial break. This is the end of our first panel. I am so grateful to you all for helping us to get this started. On the other side of it, we are going to hear from Congressional Representative Alma Adams, who is going to be communicating with us about her commitment to this. And we're going to be taking a look towards the legislative capacity, policies, what we need to do to ensure that now that we understand what Black maternal health looks like, I want to talk about justice.
Yes.
I want to talk about some reproductive
Yes.
justice.